Alright, hey there, welcome to my channel. In this video we're going to be looking at a router. If you've ever been curious about how to use one of these, you can see I've got it in the garage and I use my handy little extension tool mounted to the top of the garage for easy plug-in access. But this is a router, and if you've ever been curious, I'll hopefully be able to show you around this router. We're going to be doing some test cuts together. I'll show you how to change out this bit and kind of build your skills a little bit with a router. Now there's several types of routers you can buy, lots of them out there. I'll put a link to this in the description below for a router similar to, or maybe I can find this exact one. It's several years old, so I'm not sure if they still make this model or not. But I've also got a little kit of different router bits you can see here. Those are relatively affordable, I would say, but for a nice kit, be prepared to pay top dollar. They've got lots of different features and whatnot, but this is just a basic kit and it's worked well for me over the years. Now, as far as your router itself, you've got several little levers that kind of control various things. This is going to be your guide. And I'll show you how that attaches and how that can work later, but we'll remove that for now. And my tool is quite dusty, so I apologize for that. This little lever you can actually control very minutely once your bit is in and bring that lever or the bit down or up. You've got your power switch obviously right there. You've got your fan, and this thing will put out quite a bit of air. We'll go ahead and take this part off now. You can see that lever. This is the housing for the unit for the motor. Just another view here. And you know, every router is going to be a little different, of course. So you can get out that instruction manual. Now it's got a little hose input there, so if you have a shop vac, it's going to spit out a lot of sawdust as you chew through a fresh piece of wood. So something to keep in mind. I highly prefer or highly recommend that you have a shop vac when you use this, or you're going to get super dusty. You're going to get lots of wood chips everywhere, right? Or sawdust, I should say. Now, I don't have the tool that this thing came with, but you can certainly use a pipe wrench, and this will actually, there's a little locking mechanism you have to depress. Let me put the camera down. There we go. There's a better view. One hand goes on the little lever, the locking mechanism, and then you can just, with the tool, you can release that little bolt. And this is really helpful for cleaning as well, by the way. If you want to take this out and just give it a good cleaning, this is how it works. And it should just slide out like that. And they're really sharp, so be careful. Surprising, I mean, yes and no, right? Of course it cuts wood, so it should be sharp, right? Like a saw blade or whatnot. But because it kind of deceptively looks smooth and round, but there's still a blade in there. So wear gloves and be really careful. You can see that blade sticking out, a couple of them. So once things are cleaned out, we can put that back on, and we'll put the bit in. And you can obviously switch out the bits with the bit that you want to use. For this video, we'll just keep this bit in. It's going to give me kind of it's just a general bit, and I just generally really like the pattern that it creates. So we'll tighten that back up. There we go. You don't want to over tighten either. And notice that the bit doesn't go, I didn't drop it all the way down. I left a little gap, about an 1/8 of an inch gap. And that's going to save you lots of headache a little later. So keep that bit out just a little bit. All right, so let's put everything back together. We'll get a piece of test wood, and I'm going to show you what not to do and then what to do, if that makes sense. So depending on the type of wood or the width of the wood, this guide here that we saw a little earlier might be helpful for you. You can actually adjust it. You can see there. And that's going to ensure really nice, straight cuts, right? So the idea is that you put that guide on the back of the piece of wood. There we go, just like that. And then you adjust it so that your bit will, there we go, another view, will stay straight as you move it. Now this That last piece was a little too thin for the guide to work, so here's a bit wider piece. But I'm not going to have the guide on there so that you can actually see kind of how there we go. Now, another thing not to do is cut a piece of wood with only one side. You can see I've got a clamp there. That is not going to give you enough space for clearance, right? And it's also going to create some wiggle on one side. So you need to make sure it's nice and secure and that you have enough space once your blade is on there, and it's not going to get in the way of the clamp. Can you see that? It works well that way, but I can't finish the job to the other side of the wood. So what do I mean by that? This. You're going to get some crappy cut that looks like this. Okay, so when the wood moves on you, it's going to affect the cut. You can see we've got several kind of bumps that just looks awful. So I recommend, if you're using a handheld router like this, use a table vise if possible. There we go. Get it nice and secure. Have lots of clearance up there. And I also highly recommend that you do several practice cuts, especially if this is your first time. This is quite a skill set. I am not a professional wood maker or anything like that. I'm just a dad, just a homeowner, and but I do like to customize my baseboards for my home, or certain rooms in my home, or other various woodworking projects. So one thing I've learned, definitely do several practice cuts. Feel confident, feel good. Make sure your setup is secure, right? So you can see that table vise there. That piece of wood does not move at all, and I've got lots of clearance. Again, look at all that sawdust being kicked out as it chews through that wood. And you want nice, smooth kind of technique. Now you can see a little film of wood left behind. That means my bit needs to be adjusted a little bit. So again, practice cuts are essential. You could try doing it again, but be careful. I prefer one pass as opposed to several passes, so that you don't have rivets or bumps or whatnot. Now, some degree of light sanding might be required afterwards. Not a great cut here, but you can see not too bad. But you can take a little piece of sandpaper, and if you have any, undesirable little pieces, you can just, pop those off and clean that up really well. Here is another test cut. Let's take a 1x2 piece of wood here. This is pretty long, 4 or 5 feet. I'm going to attach it to my table vise like we did before. And I'm not going to use the guide. This is all by hand. So you got to have a nice steady hand. Again, make sure the setup, you can see it moving a little bit there. Make sure you secure it to the end, because it will tilt and move on you a little bit. But it's still doable. Not a bad cut either. You can see we've got a little bit of scrap wood. We'll just take that, or a little bit of flake, so to speak. We'll just take a piece of sandpaper and get that going. But pretty straight, pretty smooth cut. I'm overall happy with that for the purposes of this video. And again, if you don't like anything, you can just take some sandpaper and just kind of gently remove it, depending on the wood that you're working with. But here's the finished product. There we go. I love the router. It's such a cool tool, pretty versatile, and just allows for some customization of various things around the home. All right. That is it. Thanks for being with me. Hopefully this video has been helpful for more do-it-yourself home projects and product reviews around the house. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks.